If there are two things we all know about the god king of the Greek pantheon, Zeus, it's that 1, he was pretty handy at flinging those lightning bolts around, and 2, he would occasionally have non-consensual intercourse with mortal women while disguised as a large water bird. I'm going to assume that NUX were thinking more along the lines of the lightning bolt thing when naming their big purple power supply, and were probably hoping that I would be professional enough to let the swan buggery go unmentioned. Well, if what I've just said ends up ruffling a few feathers, that would only be thematically appropriate, I suppose. So let's take a closer look at the Zeus isolated power supply from NUX. Pedals! We've all got them, and we want to power them from one convenient source. And that's what Zeus is designed to do. This is an 80-watt isolated power supply capable of delivering power to up to 10 pedals at once. It receives mains electric via the universal IEC connector. They supply the cable appropriate for your country in the box, and outputs to 6 dedicated 9-volt 500mA outlets and 4 voltage selectable outlets, 3 of which let you select between 9, 12 and 18 volts, and the final outlet dials in a continuous voltage all the way down to 6 volts, perfect for starving your fuzz pedal for that flat battery sound. There's even a 5-volt USB connection on the rear, allowing you to power or charge any device with a USB power port. The folded aluminium enclosure is anodized in a striking purple and has a form factor that will fit comfortably under most larger sized pedal boards. This is not for your pedal train nano. I'm sorry, you just have to accept it and move on. Naturally, it comes with all the necessary accessories. 5 long and 5 short DC power cables, 1 for reverse polarity, 1 with the 3.5mm mono plug which will fit in the old rats, and a current doubling cable in case you have a power-hungry effect in your collection. There are even self-adhesive rubber and Velcro feet to assist you in mounting the power supply to your pedal board. Each outlet has a little green LED which will illuminate when the outlet is connected to a pedal, helping you see at a glance which connections are in use. So already this seems like a strong contender in the world of pedal power supplies, but what makes one of these effective in an audio application is the technology it employs on the inside. I realise that most people aren't all that interested in the gut shots of a power supply, but those same people are often the ones who moan, "Why can't they make it smaller?" Or, "Why does it cost so much?" So if you are one of those nominal third parties with the silly voice, I just want you to take a second and look at the component density of this thing. There's not an inch of wasted space. The enclosure is barely taller than the largest capacitors, and there's more technology crammed inside this than all 10 pedals it could power combined. When you heard the words Zeus Isolated Power Supply from NUX, you probably thought transformers. And you'd be correct, but NUX aren't using large, heavy linear mains transformers. It's possible to achieve a smaller, lighter, more efficient power supply using switching technology. On these green AC-DC converter boards connected to every outlet, we have a PWM microcontroller, an infrared optocoupler, some rectifier diodes, and a small isolating transformer, amongst other things. I don't want to get bogged down in the science here. NUX are only paying me to show that this powers pedals, not to give a university lecture on power supply technology, so I'll keep this brief. PWM is pulse width modulation. It's a way to represent a continuous AC or DC voltage as discrete voltage pulses of modulating widths. It's an extremely efficient way to power things because when these pulses are switched off, they aren't using any power, so we get less heat waste. These particular PWM controllers are specifically designed to be noise-free at audio frequencies, which is why you'd want to purchase a dedicated pedal power supply and not use whatever random wall wart you find lying around that can spit out 9 volts. The amount of LED lighting or laptop PSUs where I can literally hear the switching frequency from across the room is maddening. You absolutely don't want to use those to power anything audio related. This pulse width modulated voltage then drives the primary coil of the transformer, and through the phenomenon of induction, a voltage proportional to the turns on the windings is induced in the secondary coil without any direct electrical connection. This is what isolates the output power from the input. Of course, the PWM controller needs to reference the output in order to regulate it, and you can't just run a wire back to the input side. That would defeat the purpose of isolating the power in the first place. That's where the optocoupler comes in. The infrared LED within the package flashes the output voltage as light, which is sensed by the phototransistor and converted back to voltage so that the PWM can reference what's going on at the output to maintain stable voltage while retaining complete electrical isolation. This pulsed voltage is then rectified and runs through myriad other components on the output board to smooth and regulate the voltage, finally delivering stable, isolated power to your pedals. Alongside the power efficiency and the superior isolation, switching opto-isolated power supplies are also lighter than the ones using linear mains transformers, adding less weight to your pedal board. We're going to get this hooked up to a number of pedals to show it working, and while I'm doing that, I'm going to run through some PSU FAQs. Now, I've answered all of these in much more detail before, so this is going to be a bit of a speed run in the least technical language I can manage. Voltage is the pressure pushing electricity around a circuit. You want to match the voltage of the supply to the voltage required by the circuit. Too little voltage and there won't be enough pressure to push electricity all the way through the circuit. Your pedal simply won't turn on. But too much voltage and there might be so much pressure pushing electricity through components that can't handle it that they rupture. Too much voltage will damage your pedal. If your pedal is rated for 9 volts, then for the love of God, just give it 9 volts. You're not going to get more tones running into 18 volts. What you're going to get is a bricked pedal and all the magic smoke escaping its confinement. Current is the flow of electricity through a circuit. The power supply is like a reservoir for electricity. It tells you how much current is available for use. Connecting a pedal to a power supply is kind of like adding a spigot to a beer keg. That pedal can only draw a small amount of current from the larger supply at any given time. If your pedal only draws 50 milliamps, then it will draw 50 milliamps from the power supply even if you've got it connected to a 500 milliamp outlet. However, if your pedal is drawing 1 amp and you connect it to a 500 milliamp outlet, then the current requirement of the pedal is larger than the reservoir you've connected it to, and your pedal won't have enough power to turn on. Connect your pedal to an outlet that has more current supply than the device demands. Electricity has a positive end and a negative end. Some components have sensitivity to which way you connect the positive and negative. This is polarity. Getting the polarity inverted can cause severe damage to components in the circuit. Most pedals you'll encounter are center negative, which is denoted by this symbol. However, on rare occasions, you may come across a pedal which is center positive, which has this symbol. Zeus's outlets are all center negative, as those are by far the most common power connections on pedals. But if you do happen to have a center positive pedal, then you can connect it using the polarity inverting cable, and that'll flip the polarity around. This white tipped cable should only be used with center positive polarity pedals. The pedal board is now complete. Zeus is mounted snugly to the underside. We have a mix of low draw analog pedals and more power hungry digital effects. We've got stuff for the front end and stuff for the effects loop. I've even got the NUX B8 wireless kit involved. Keep it loud and let me play you out with this fully powered signal chain.